Now let me come to the other side of the Hindu candle that is burning, which is discrimination, which is what the book talks about. And I don't need to go into the detail about those and charting them out, but Praveen asked me, are you thinking of writing? I think the time has come for us to write the next edition of Hindus in Hindu Rashtra. And I said, what would I write? 10th class citizens? 11th class citizens? We should have become at least from 8th class citizens to 6th class or 5th class citizens, if not 2nd class citizens. The river is flowing in the opposite direction. We might be citizenless. Maybe the next edition of Hindus in Hindu Rashtra would be there are no Hindus in Hindu Rashtra. Right? As many people say, there would be no Hindus in Bangladesh in 30 years. This is a scientifically projected assessment. So the fact of the matter is, leave alone appeasement. Why are we as a society so comfortable with the discrimination that is happening against the Hindus? Hindus don't mind appeasement. But we as a society do mind when we are discriminated against. And now the situation has come to such an extent that I am no longer, in fact, publicly asking for the discrimination to be removed, because I know it is not going to be removed. What I want is that discrimination to be applied to other societies, other communities as well. Maybe that is the solution. So I know that the BJP is not going to remove state control over the temples. If it wanted to, it had 11 years to do so. That was one of the planks in 2013. But now the BJP government controls more Hindu temples than even Congress did. Why? That is the question. But more importantly, now that I know that state control over Hindu temples will not be removed, I want state to control mosques and churches. Because if you call a state that controls Hindu temples as a secular state, why won't you continue to call that state a secular state if it controls mosques and churches? But I know you won't. The moment the state decides that it will start to control mosques and churches to the extent that it controls 110,000 Hindu temples, there will be a civil war in this country. This is the extent to which the Hindu has been pummeled. It's not just about giving us preferential treatment. It is that you are giving us discrimination. When I talk about the other part of not just that in Germany, do you find a German refugee? Is there a British refugee in exile in Britain? Then why are there 700,000 Hindu Kashmiri exiles in Hindustan? Yes, the Congress is responsible for not doing anything about it. But then do we have the Congress rule in the last 11 years? Why are only 5,000 Kashmiri Hindus returned to Kashmir? And you know this for a fact. Illegal immigration is not just a ticking time bomb. Demography change is not just a ticking time bomb. It is now a hissing time bomb. Because you know what happens when the demography of any place changes? Very soon you start enacting the laws of that very community. You have Sharia laws. There was demand for death by stoning by a sitting chief minister of Kashmir recently. You have schools in Jharkhand that no longer have Sunday as a holiday but Friday. There are so many other examples. Cinema theaters were shut down in Kashmir. You've seen in other areas. Just recently there was a protest defying a high court order to allow Hindus to celebrate their festival. 500 Christians sat down on a dharna saying we will not allow this. Demography changes the laws and the rules that govern us as a society, that govern the society, and that is dangerous. Our openness, our pluralism, that is an endowment, direct endowment of Hindu civilization, is going to disappear. It is disappearing right before our eyes, and we are not doing anything about it. Let me tell you a very disturbing example. And the disturbing example is in April of 2025, there were large-scale demonstrations in Coimbatore in protest against the Waqf Act amendment. You might have seen streets were blocked. And very recently, a whole village was claimed by Waqf to be on Waqf land. That village included 1500-year-old Hindu temple. So somebody is claiming that a 1500-year-old Hindu temple is on Islamic land when Islam is only 1300 years old. How is that possible? In fact, I hope this is not on Waqf land, sir. We might be standing on Waqf. Jokingly, once I told Navika, this studio might be on Waqf land. It turned out to be on Waqf land. 71% of Delhi is on Waqf land. Now, I don't mind people claiming anything. The Waqf board can claim the moon. And then we can have a Chandrayaan Mission 4 to actually deliver them that. I don't mind it. You have a property dispute. Somebody claims something. Somebody denies that claim. What is the natural progression? You go to the court. This happens the world over. That is how property disputes are settled. But not in this case. You have made an act that constitutionally mandates a tribunal to be set up, an executive and a legislature to aid that tribunal for you to adjudicate as to whose primary claim it is. You've made a parallel government of executive, legislature and judiciary to decide on Waqf land. And in the last 10 years, 20 lakh acres has been claimed by Waqf. We are just sitting ducks. And I'm no longer asking for the Waqf Act to be abrogated because I know no government has the guts to do it. Even the BJP government does not have the guts to realize the discrimination. It brought in an amendment. Yes, good, perfect is the enemy of the good. So amendment is better than having the original Waqf Act. But even in the amended Waqf Act, there are dozens of draconian clauses that are blatantly discriminatory. For example, the clause where it says the state governments have to pay the Waqf board the cost for assessing a land. This violates constitutional articles and principles of a so-called secular state. We are paying tens of thousands of crores for someone to determine that a 1500-year-old temple lies on 1300-year-old Islamic land. This is what it has come to. But now, I'm not asking for the Waqf Act to be abrogated, because I know it would never be. I'm asking at least, if you can't remove the discrimination against Hindus, then apply the same discrimination to Muslims as well. Have a Sanatan Act. And through that Sanatan Act, where each and every clause would be the same as the Waqf Act, any Hindu can claim any land to be Sanatan land. So the Jama Masjid can be claimed to be on Sanatan land. Well, every mosque is technically on Sanatan land. And then what would the Muslims do? The Shahi Imam would be outraged. Yes, reasonably. And he would say, I'm going to the court, but say, no. You can't go to the court. Come to the Sanatan tribunal first. We will make you eat the same medicine that you have been dishing out to us for 50 years. Within 24 hours, the same Shahi Imam would say, let us abrogate the Waqf Act. This is what it has come to. I don't need to go into the judgments that are blatantly anti-Hindu, where not once but twice the Supreme Court denied reopening of the cases of atrocities and criminalities against the Kashmiri Hindus that faced a genocide, reasoning that too much time had elapsed, so we cannot reopen those cases. And 6 months after they said this judgment, the Supreme Court ordered an SIT to be set up to look at the cases of criminalities and atrocities against the Sikhs in 1984 genocide. That happened 6 years before the Kashmiri Hindu genocide. I know this happens. It's not a question of that the judiciary promulgates anti-Hindu things. We've seen what the Chief Justice, former Chief Justice talked about go and talk to your Lord Vishnu if you want the head to be reinstated. You see these things. But the question is, this book is asking that yes, laws are anti-Hindus, communities are anti-Hindu, judiciary can be anti-Hindu, legislature can be anti-Hindu. But government that we put in power, are you anti-Hindu? If you're not, why aren't you raising the voice? Did the Prime Minister ever say or comment upon the fact, this blatantly anti-Hindu thing that the judiciary did? No, there was complete silence. That is what the quandary is. And I'll end by saying this as best exemplified by a show of hands. And I'll take to heart what my beloved professor said, that we are open to criticism. So I'm going to test him on that. You see, when the British were ruling us pre-1947, they made a lot of blatantly anti-Indian laws. So many of them. One of the most blatant anti-Indian laws was the act, or in fact the law that is called the Sedition Law, whereby you cannot even say anything against the British government or the government of the time. Then the British left. And then the Congress came, and for 50 years, the same anti-Indian law was there, Sedition Law. So I want a show of hands. How many of you feel that in continuing with the anti-Indian British law, the Congress government was also anti-Indian? Please raise your hands. Almost all the hands have gotten up. So you believe that if an anti-Indian law continues, the government of the time doesn't remove it, that government is anti-Indian. Rightly so. Rightly so. I congratulate you on thinking that. But now I ask you, the Congress, in its diabolical nature, promulgated a lot of anti-Hindu acts. Taking over of the temples was one such act. You had the RTE in conjunction with the 93rd Amendment that puts the onus of giving 25% reservations to economically weaker section only on Hindu-run schools, forcing only thousands of Hindu-run schools to shut down and the Muslim and Christian-run schools to prosper, take in Hindu students. The Congress government brought in the Places of Worship Act, an evil act that disbars Hindus to even knocking at the doors of justice, demanding to reclaim their demolished temples. The Congress brought in the evil Waqf Act. The Congress brought in all these anti-Hindu acts. Now, what would you call a government that has not removed those anti-Hindu acts and those anti-Hindu acts are still continuing? A show of hands. Would that government that continues with those anti-Hindu acts would also be anti-Hindu? Right. I think that answers the question. Much more dangerous than those anti-Hindu acts is the fact that those acts are still continuing. And I hope with the Tamil translation and other translations and the book indeed, we reach a stage where, yes, our eyes are opened, but we start demanding, or at least tugging the kurta sleeves of our politicians and asking that, yes, our eyes are opened, but why are we still powerless? Thank you so much.